Hello, welcome back to my channel. So today's video will be, in my last video I said that we would start on patterns. This is for the beginner seamstress series. So today we're going to do the Sunshine Wristlet Bgastock pattern. Now this is the first one that she released and it's completely free. She did release the boxed bottom with the front panel zipper, but that was after I had said that we would do this one, so I didn't want to change it up in case anybody went ahead and got the pattern for this video. There will be, because the pattern just got released, there'll be a ton of videos out there for the new one. But if you would like to see one from me, just leave a comment below and I will do one. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you don't mind, if you would like to see more videos. Now I've been working on beginner sewing videos, but I also do videos on my industrial for tutorials. I'm kind of writing out a plan. I've noticed that I kind of, because I have a slight ADHD problem, and with my full-time job, I kind of just go all over the place like I'm doing right now. So if you'd like to see tutorials or sewing on the industrial, don't forget to subscribe so you will know when a new video is posted, and there's a little bell that will let you send you a notification. Okay, again, this is the Sunshine Wristlet by Bgastock Designs. Now this is a free pattern, so we can go over everything pertaining to the pattern, measurements and everything, because it is free. So I have already cut out my pattern pieces, as you can see here. So you should have a lining panel piece, an interior slip pocket panel, an exterior center panel, an exterior side panel, an interior zipper pocket panel, and an interior well, sorry, that's two of them. I don't need two of them, just one. I accidentally cut out two. So you should have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces. Now, because we're doing this on a domestic machine, and we will be doing this out of cotton all the way through, no vinyl for this bag. We will work up to that. Okay, so the way I do my patterns is I print them out. If it's a pattern that I make constantly, I will print them out and transfer them to Dollar Tree cutting mats. They're plastic and they're $1. You get a 2-pack for $1. So I find that is the most cost-effective way. And you know, using your rotary cutter and scissors, if they get chipped or whatever, you could just throw them away and do them over again. And you can make notes on there, everything. So once I get done, I either put them in a manila folder, and then I also write all of my notes on here, because I'm getting away from printing out all of the pages from a pattern and just printing out the pattern pieces. So or you can put them, most of my patterns are in the big huge business envelopes, but I ran out, so I've started using these, and then I just write the name on there. Alright, so the next thing is to gather all of your supplies. So we have the pattern. You need fleece, SF101, a 6-inch number 3 zipper. I know this looks like super long, but I buy all my number 3 zippers in one size and just cut them down. It's cheaper that way from Amazon. So this will be our internal zipper. And then you need a 10-inch main zipper. Now I use Zipper by the Yard, so this is what I had excuse me, left over of my navy. So this is, I know it looks longer than 10 inches, but I'll just cut it down again. You will need, the pattern calls for 3/4 inch hardware, so I'm using 1 inch. I've said in previous videos, it's more cost effective for me to just buy everything in 1 inch, and then I don't have to worry about storing all different sizes of hardware and buying all different sizes. So I just do everything in 1 inch unless the pattern specifically says it is completely necessary to have 3/4 or a 1/2 inch. But I do 1 inch. So you need a 1 inch D-ring or 3/4 if you're following the pattern. And you need a lobster clasp. I'm just using this because this is for the wrist strap. So 2 zippers, a D-ring, and a clasp. And fleece and SF101. And that is it as far as hardware. It is very easy on this pattern. So let's go ahead and cut out our pieces. So I am doing this all in 100% cotton. So let's figure out the outside piece. This, I wonder, nope, that's not going to fit. This is the hardest part for me, is picking out all of my fabric. So I plan on making a bag out of this. So a clutch or a pouch would look good with it. Okay, so this is going to be my center piece. You want the fabric that you want to pop, or you want people to notice, that needs to be your center fabric. So you need to take out your exterior center panel. Now, what you could do, it says the fold. Now this right here means you will line the edge of this along the folded edge of your fabric. If that is confusing to you or you don't want to do that, you can always trace this mirrored like this. So you have it right here. You just flip it and trace this on another piece of paper and then tape them together, and you have just one full piece. I am going to just fold it. So hopefully I can get one piece, or the center. So you need 2 of them. And if you're using directional fabric like this is, the dragon's head is facing this way, that way, then you need to ensure that you are laying your pattern pieces the correct way. So I'm going to center that dragon head on right in the middle. Okay, so this is the top. The dragon head is going that way. So we want to make sure that that is going that way as well. And then you just clip it. I'm very sorry, all of a sudden my throat is getting ticklish. And now we're just going to cut around right along the edge. You could use a rotary cutter, or you could use scissors, whichever is easier for you. There is my center piece on one side. There it is. So that's one side center. Now we just move. I'm going to cut this so it's not in the way. We're just going to move this up and find another one, because I think, nope, there are 2 different dragon types. So I just need to fold this over again. Make sure it lines up. I want my dragon body to be right in the center so I get enough on each side of the panel. So there we go. And you know what? I don't think that's going to work because of this cut right here. So what we're going to do, you can always just take this piece. So what we're going to have to do is I'm trying to find a way to get that other dragon without cutting a big old hole right in the middle of my fabric. But doesn't look like that's going to work. So I'm going to have to. This is, I believe, what people call fussy cutting. So get all of that together. Again, make sure that whatever your main fabric is going to be, if you're having a specific picture, that the fold is the center of your picture. Okay. Again, directional. This is facing up. And this is how you do it with rotary cutter. I'm very slow with it. Sometimes it's easier if you are using plastic, those Dollar Tree mats. And if your rotary cutter is sharpened, which mine is not. Okay. So there we go. We have one side and the other side. So what I like to do is I like to take the pattern piece and clip it to what I just cut out. That way I know I'm not missing anything. So there we go. So now we set this to the side and set your main fabric to the side. All right, now the side panels. We are going to use I think that will make it too busy. So we are going to use, you know what? Yeah, we're going to use this as a side panel. Usually I use vinyl, so it's been a while since I've pretty much used cotton. So take your lining piece. Again, you have this fold right here, so make sure this edge is lined up with the fold of your fabric. And if you are wondering, I get most of my fabric from the Fabric Candy Shop Facebook page, but I think their website's a little bit different. I can post a link below. They mainly do pre-orders, which can come in a month, 2 months. Sometimes they've had them out in 6 months. I like it because it's cheaper than doing custom fabric. So if nobody buys your product, you're not out that much money. And it's more cost effective for your customers, because you're not having to charge more because you got custom fabric. So there's one piece. Oh, you know what? That was the lining side. That was the lining. So we just cut out that lining with this. So what I'm going to do is just use this for my lining and my side pieces. So you need 2 linings, and we're going to just, again, put that edge along the fold, clip it down, or trace it. Some people like to take some fabric markers and just trace out your pattern onto the fabric and then cut it out. Okay, so now we have our 2 lining pieces. Now that's done, so we'll clip those together and set those aside. So we need our side pieces. So we will use this for the side pieces. It might look alright, might be a little bit busy. So there is no folds for this one. So you will just open this up. Again, if it's directional, make sure you are facing the right way. I am not going to edit out my mistake because I like watching videos on YouTube of if people make a mistake, because I want to know that I'm not the only one that's making mistakes. So here is the exterior side panel. You need two, and then we're going to flip this pattern piece over and cut two again. It's called mirroring. So we're going to add that right there. If I do apologize for my mistakes. So again, if you're watching this, we just cut out two linings and now we're cutting out the exterior side panels. Okay, so there's one. Now, remember, if it's hard for you to remember exactly, just cut it out and put it back down, because you need two pieces of the pattern piece going the same way. I just like to line it up and then cut it out as I go, which kind of makes it cockeyed in the end, like my leftover fabric, but it'll be all right. Okay, and then just cut that. There we go. Okay, so now you have your two pieces going the same way. So if this is how you had your piece the first time, what you're going to do is just take it, flip it over, and cut two pieces exactly the same way. So once you flip it over, don't move it again. So we're going to cut it this way. Okay, again, keep it flipped over. Okay. There I go saying okay all the time again. So, you should have your pieces looking like this. Your side panels. So you have two that face each other and two that face each other. Just like that. So your curves should be on the outside. So, if you don't have 4 pieces that look like this, then you did not flip your pattern piece correctly. So you should have, this is the outside of your pouch, so you should have your curves should be along the outsides. So that is done. You should have 4 pieces all together. Clip them and we're done. Okay, so all we have left is interior zipper pocket panel and slip pocket. So I'm going to do those in the same as my side panels just to give it some depth on the inside. Okay, I'm going to find an edge because your interior zipper pocket does not need a fold. So you just need 2 of these. You go down. That's 1. Do not get discouraged if your pieces do not line up exactly as your pattern pieces cut out, especially your zipper pocket panel, as long as they are generally the right size, because you're going to have a seam allowance and then you're going to cut it down. So if it's not completely straight, don't get discouraged. Mine are never completely straight. So you should have 2 pieces for the zip pocket. Now we're going to have an interior slip pockets, and you need that on a fold. So we're just going to fold this over. Again, this is the fold, and you want this along the edge of the fold. So just line all that up. And you know what? I think it goes that way. Yeah. So it does go up and down. So if you're using directional fabric, yes, up and down will be fine. So there's our slip pocket. And now, according to the additional cutout pieces of the pattern, you need a connector, 1.5 by 1.75. So we need our small smaller ruler. I usually cut my zipper tabs out of what is my side panels. So, but we are going to do it out of this, because you're not going to be able to see the dragons on the zipper tabs anyway, and I don't want to use that. If I don't sell this, I don't sell it. It's going to be pretty either way, and I'll use it. So I normally cut my zipper tabs to whatever length I feel like it. Usually I even use scraps, because you're going to end up folding it over your zipper anyway. And the one thing, it was hard for me when I first doing zipper tabs. Like, I hated doing zipper tabs, and I thought I would never just do zippers or zipper tabs. I mean, I even posted in one of the groups that was it. I was done with zipper tabs. I'm over it. What I found out was if I just make my zipper tabs bigger and then cut them down to size, then it was okay. So I probably don't need them that big. I'm going to cut mine at 3 inches. 1, 2, 3. By whatever. You can please cut them out according to the pattern, if that is your preference. But I have figured out that the bigger you make your zipper tab and then cut it down, it's a lot easier, especially starting out. Because those zipper tabs, you cut them, if you cut them 1.5 by 1.75, they're going to be this tiny. And you're going to have to fold them and try and get a straight line on that little bitty zipper tab. And it is a lot harder to get a straight line, I don't know why, on something this small than something this big, and starting over here and getting it straight and then cutting it down. Now you also need a D-ring connector, 1.5 by 1.75. So that's just one piece. So 1.5. I usually also cut my D-ring connectors it doesn't matter how long, but because I'm using 1-inch hardware, I do need to cut them by 2, because then I'll just fold the sides in and then fold it over, and I'll show you. So it doesn't matter how long, but they do need to be double the width of your hardware. So there's my connector. And then a strap, which is 4 by 14. So you will take this. Now, half of 14 is 7, because my ruler here is only 8.5 inches. So it's 4 by 14, and I'm doing 4 inches wide, which is not what the pattern says, because again, I'm using 1-inch hardware. And for straps, you are folding in, which makes it 2 inches, and then you're folding that whole thing in half, which makes it 1 inch. If anybody was wondering why I do it that way. So let's cut this excess off. I need to replace my rotary cutter. Okay, so 4 by 14, and this is folded in half, so I need 7 inches by 4. Okay. 4 inches by 7. Okay. And there is our strap. Okay, that is everything needed for this pouch. So now the next thing to do is we are going to move over to the ironing table, and we are going to iron fusible or SF101 on everything on here. Because this is all cotton, everything has to have 101. It doesn't have to. I think I've mentioned in a previous video, interfacing is all for preference. I am, because I want it to have a little bit more substance. And then we're also going to cut the fleece out of, this calls for foam, but I'm using fleece. So, because I'm using a domestic machine, and as I've said before, this domestic is done with foam. After 3 years of sewing with foam, it's done. So we're going to use fusible fleece. So you're going to use your lining panel as your fleece. Okay, let's move over there. Here we are. So while my iron heats up, let's cut out our pieces. So here is the SF101. You could also use Woven Fuse, which is from gotinterfacing.com. So every piece that I am doing is going to take SF101. So a lot of people that I've seen just place all their pieces on the interfacing and then iron it down and then cut it out. There are a lot of different ways that people do it. Steam press, heat press, lay it all down, then iron and cut out the excess and don't worry about waste. I just like to lay it down, cut, move, and then iron it down. So I won't make you sit here and watch me do every single piece. I just want to do the first piece. This iron that I'm using is a Chi iron from Walmart. I got it as a Christmas present. But I have used for 3 years making bags, I used the cheap $10 iron. Which I'm glad I did as a beginner, because it ended up being so nasty. I couldn't even get it clean. And then from my 101 being wrinkly. I just cut off the excess. I touch it a little bit on the back. And that piece is done. I know that there's some right here, but I'm not too worried about it. So I will meet you back at the sewing table as soon as I get done cutting and interfacing all these pieces. Well, we got all that done. Now, there are a couple of things I forgot to mention and I wanted to make note of. So, when you took your lining panel piece to cut your fleece, you're not going to be ironing that on anything as of yet. So, you should still have just 2 fleece pieces for your stack. The other thing, so this is your slip pocket, right? What I decided to do is cut 2 pieces for the slip pocket, and what I'm going to do, and I will show you, this is not part of the pattern, she does it differently, but I like to do my slip pockets this way. So what I'm going to do is make it to where I top stitch the top, just the top, and we will do that on the machine, but I'm going to have it the whole, covering just about the whole panel, and then this whole thing becomes a slip pocket instead of this little bead box. So that's the 2 differences so far that I have made. So now that we have everything interfaced, we are going to pull out the machine and start putting it all together. And I have the pattern on my tablet, hardware, and let's get started. Well, let's get started. I'm going to try and follow the pattern to the T. I don't normally do that anymore because I have made this a couple of times, and after sewing for 3 years, and trust me, you will get to that point where you know how to put a zipper in, you know how to do a slip pocket, you know how to put it all together. So, but I want to follow along with you. So the first thing we need to know is that we are not doing the front, at least I'm not, the front wristlet strap version. I don't like I never see, at least where I'm from, I never see anybody carry a clutch like that. So if you are wanting to do the front wristlet strap version, please follow along the directions. If you would like to skip that and we will do the side wristlet strap version, that's the side that we are going to do. So we are going to skip all the way to page 5. Make the exterior panels. Okay, so we need a middle piece and 2 mirrored side pieces. So let me back you up just a little bit. Okay, so we need our middle piece. That's going to look like this, like a short upside down pyramid. Or no, actually a right side up pyramid. So we need one of those. Well, you need both, but we're going to work on one at a time. And then you need 2 mirrored pieces. So again, the curves should be on the outside. When you put them together, the curves should be on the outside. You need one of each, and they will go along the sides. So you're going to take, like I've been saying, the curved is on the outside. Let me show you how this works. Okay, so you're going to line up these edges along the side and clip. So because you're doing it this way, your curved, the back side of your curve is going to face the middle, and you're going to just line up these corners and clip just like that. So this is the top and this is the bottom, and your curve should be towards the bottom. So that is how. And then if you would like to be proactive, which I am going to go ahead and clip the other side. Just like that. So it should look just like that. Now we'll go ahead and do the other one. And if it's easier, what you can do is lay your front panel down like this and lay these out just like that, where the curves are on the outside, and then just flip them over and line up the long edges together, corner to corner. And then you won't have to worry about if you did it backwards, because trust me, I did it the first time I made this pattern, and then I was like, what is going on? I'm not sure what exactly we will be doing after this pattern. We've done a zip pouch. We're doing this wristlet. We'll probably do a zip pouch with vinyl, so you can do vinyl on something small, because you do not want to buy a bunch of vinyl and try your first go, I'm sorry, and make a bag and without knowing your machine with vinyl. So that is my 2 cents. So let's go back to the machine. And this is sewn at a 3/8 seam allowance. So in one of my videos, I showed you the best thing to use for seam allowances is a magnet on this machine. I'm not sure how magnets do on the digital ones, but this is not a digital one. So put our magnet down on 3/8, and we are going to sew 3/8 inch along every long edge. Don't forget to back stitch. And what I like to do is just take the next one and go right behind it. Trim both of these. And do the same thing for the other side. So we're going to flip it over. Sometimes my foot goes faster than my brain. So I have to play catch up with my foot. Okay, so now what you're going to do is open these panels up, and you can iron them down so they're nice and flat. I am not, because I had to unplug my iron. So, and then you're going to top stitch these down, and I do them on the side panel side. So 1/8 of an inch from this edge on this side. Now, if you would like, and I put my seam allowance, I push my seam allowance down towards my side panel, and then that's what I'm top stitching on, and it gives it a nice little poof. But what you can do is iron open the seam allowance flat, and then you can top stitch 1/8 of an inch from both sides. I've done it both ways, but for today, I'm just going to do this side on every single side panel. Again, just about 1/8 of an inch. open up that other one. And do the same thing with the other side. Finger press that open. Again, you can use an iron to do this, to get it flat. I am not. There we go. Okay, so now your two pieces, you should have two pieces that look just like this. Your middle main panel and your side seams should look like a bowl. So the next steps, attach your foam, if you're using foam, or fleece interfacing by pin the foam interfacing to the wrong sides of the exterior panels, and we're going to baste around the edges. So you're going to take your foam or fleece, again I'm using fleece, and I'm just going to put it on the wrong sides of my main panel. Don't worry if it's much bigger, you can just trim that down. So I'm just going to baste it. You could also iron it if you're using cotton. Just about an eighth or a quarter of an inch from the edge. You just don't want it in your seam allowances later down the road. And if it is, it's just a basting stitch, and this is cotton, which is very forgiving, and you can always just pick that out if you see it. So there we go. And then I'll just trim the fleece, the excess off. As you can tell, I'm not pinning it or clipping it. I'm just holding it because it's just a basting stitch. So if it moves, it's all right. And I think I just, yep. I just hold it so it's flat and it doesn't bubble, and then I just go around the edges. worried about being perfectly straight. It's also a good time to open up that machine and let it go. Because again, as long as you are staying within your seam allowances, it does not have to be straight because it's just a basting stitch. So now we're going to cut off the excess. Next up, we need to assemble our D-ring connector that we will attach to one of the main panels. So let's get our D-ring connector piece. So here we go. So what we're going to do, let's move you where you can see, is you're going to take this and you're going to fold it in half, each side to the middle. What you can do, and what I should be doing, is marking the center. So this is 2 inches, so that's 1 inch, and that's 1 inch. And then we will get our rulers and mark that line. I would not suggest using a pen on lighter fabrics. You're not going to be able to see it, so that's why I don't mind marking this. So what you're going to do is fold these to the middle, just like that. Now, if my iron was hot, which it still is, we're going to iron this down so it will stay. Or you could use double-sided tape. So we got that down, and I'm just going to put some clips here. Again, if your iron was hot, you could get it like super flat and not use clips, but mine is not that hot. So what we're going to do now is you're going to sew 1/8 of an inch along the outside edges. A lot of people do their connectors differently. This is how I'm doing it. If you have another preference, some people sew the 4 lines where they sew each side of the middle and then the outsides. I'm only doing 2 1/8 of an inch from each side. So that's how we're going to do the connector. So for the connector, remember 1/8 of an inch from the edge is all we're going to do. And instead of taking it out and snipping it and putting it back under, since it's going to be folded, you can just sew across and come back up the other side, and you are not having to worry about those threads. Put our connector on there. Again, I'm using 1 inch hardware, just like this. Fold it in half over that. We're just going to clip that like that and go back and take one of your outer pieces and can't remember exactly where the pattern calls for. I just stick it on there about 2 inches down, and then I just pull it up some, so you have about 1 inch from this side, just like that. And then we're just going to clip that on there, and you're going to baste this on here, so about 1/8 of an inch from the edge, a couple of times. So baste that on there, and then your connector will be on. I just go across it a couple of times, because if somebody's using the wrist strap a lot to carry it, then it's going to get a lot of pull on it. So I just basted it on there a couple of times. Okay, and I do not cut this down. I'll cut it down from the seam allowance a little bit, but not too much, just because you don't want to cut it too close and then it start to fray or something, and then it starts to tear. So there's our connector on there. Next, we are going to work on the lining pieces by putting in our slip pocket and zipper pocket. So grab your slip pockets. Now remember, I did mine where it goes all the way across. So according to the pattern, the slip pocket is a little bit smaller, and you would have to put them right sides together. Put them right sides together, and you would sew around all three sides, leaving a turning hole. You turn it, iron it down, and top stitch three sides, put it on there, and then top stitch one side, put it on there, and then sew the other three sides down. But it makes for a little slip pocket, and I've been doing it in my bags, making the slip pockets all the way across. So that's how we're going to do this one. Now if you follow the instructions I'm doing, you're going to take your two long pieces and lay them right sides together. I only interfaced one side, and we're going to stitch across the top at 1/4 of an inch, which is the width of my foot. And we're just going to fold the back to the front. I'm sorry, the front to the back. And what I am going to do is roll this over, but leave a little accent mark on the top. So just fold it over where it's even. And I'm just going to finger press this down. And just add, because I'm not going to iron it, I'm just going to add some clips to hold it down. Like that. So we have this little accent mark on the top. And we're just going to top stitch and right here 1/8 of an inch from the edge to hold that down. Now, if you're using waterproof canvas for your lining instead of cotton, you do not need 2 layers. You would just fold over your top edge and top stitch, and then you can skip the back part. So there is my top. Okay, so take one of your lining pieces, and we are going to just set this on here. I know it's not going to line up on the bottom, but we are going to trim that. So make sure it covers your whole lining piece on the bottom, just like this. Hold on, I'll clip it and then show you. Because what I'm going to do is baste it from the other side. So there we go. And then I can baste it from the other side around my pattern and then trim off these pieces. We're just going to baste it about 1/8 of an inch from the side. Again, if you go a little bit further and after you get done, you see it in your seam allowance, you can always pull these basting stitches. If you're using cotton, because you won't be able to see the holes. If you're using anything that will perforate, or however you say it, after you pull the stitches, then be careful to get within your seam allowance. Okay, so then we just trim off the excess right around your lining piece. These are changes that I have made and they are not in the pattern. So if you would like to follow the pattern explicitly, please pause this and follow the pattern for your lining piece. So there's our lining piece with our slip pocket. Now what I'm going to do, because this is very wide, is I'm going to fold this in half and get a middle line, and I am going to stitch down this middle line and cut this pocket in half. Not cut. You're just making this pocket in half so it's not so wide and it doesn't hang when people put stuff in it. I'm going to back stitch a couple of times at the top because that's where it will get the most work, and you don't want your stitching to come undone. Okay, so now we have a lining piece with 2 slip pockets, and that piece is done. So next we're going to work on the zipper pocket, and this is where you will need your iron hot. So you have your 2 zipper pocket pieces. Grab your other lining piece, back you up some. And I like to use this zipper template because it's very fast and convenient. And take your zipper. I'm going to use this light colored one for the inside. Number 3. I'm using up my number 3 zippers for the inside zip pocket. Now you can use number 3 zippers wherever you would like, but I'm starting to really love Zipper by the Yard in number 5. It's very cost effective and convenient. Okay, so lay your other lining piece face up. You're going to take one of your zipper pocket pieces, just one, and lay it face down. You'll need to look in the pattern for exact placement, but I'm just going to eyeball it. Okay, so that's how it should look. Now, how big is this lining piece? It is 7 1/2. So we are going to do a 6-inch zipper for the inside because I need room along the outsides to close it up. So I'm going to use a 6-inch my 6-inch. And the way that I do it, this is about an inch down from the top. Okay, so an inch down, and then you're going to find the middle of your zipper piece, and then you're going to go, if you're doing a 6-inch, find the middle. You're going to go 3 inches one way and 3 inches the other way to get your 6-inch line. And then you want, this is a 1/4 inch wide, so come down 1/4 inch and go again 6-inch line if you don't have one of these. Okay, so we are going to draw our box just like that. Now, because I'm using cotton, I'm going to use pins to pin it in place. And there we go. Now we're going to sew around this box. We're going to sew around this box. So because we're sewing around this box, what I like to do is start in the middle, kind of, with my box. I do not want my back stitches in the corners. So just start somewhere along the line, and then you're going to sew around the box and back up to that line. And then just follow your line. Nope, wrong foot pedal. I like to hand crank down the sides just in case, so I can get it right on there, and then come back the other side. Move your thread out of the way. And then you can take these pins out. Now, a lot of people like to just draw a line down the middle and then you cut that line, but I don't. All you're doing is cutting this open. And what I will do, though, is show you these corners, because you want to notch these corners and you don't want to cut all the way across. So you are going to cut, can you see that? You're going to cut across, but see these corners right here? See these corners right here? You're going to cut into these corners, but do not hit your threads, because you need to make a little notch on both ends. So make a little slit. And then we are going to cut down in the middle to those notches and just lightly make sure you don't hit your threads. These scissors are a little bit too big for this size pocket. Okay, and then we're going to flip this zipper panel to the back side. And just pull it just like this. And we're going to iron this down so it stays. So this is what it should look like after you iron it down. Now if you're using waterproof canvas, you're going to have to steam it because the iron will melt the waterproof canvas. So you just steam it and press it until it will stay. And then we're going to just take our zipper and lay it over. I'm not too worried about the zipper head because once I get over here, I'll move the zipper head. But if you do it now, then you have these two pieces that are open and it can get uneven. So what I like to do is make it a little bit longer so I can just hold one piece and sew, and then once I get over here, I'll move the zipper head in, and then all I have to worry about is holding these two pieces together. That is a tip that I learned after many years from watching other people, but that's if you make it just a little bit longer. I know this is extremely long, but you can hold it like this and sew around. Now, some people use double-sided tape or glue. I've tried all of that and it did not work. So I just hold it now, just like that, and we're going to top stitch around 1/8 of an inch around your zipper. And I like to start in the middle and go around. So again, my stitches, I'm not back stitching in that corner. So I just put my zipper right in the middle. Eighth of an inch down. Plus, if your zipper is a little bit longer, you can control it and make sure and hold it that it does not move. Again, I'm going to hold this into the zipper and line it up. Make sure it's even. Come down 1/8 of an inch. Now, before I sew across this side, I'm going to move my zipper head with my needle down. I'm going to push that up. I'm just going to wiggle it until I can get my zipper head down. This might seem like a pain, but I'm telling you, it will save you heartache in the long run. And then all you're having to do is hold these two loose pieces together to sew across. And there you go. That's tied down. And then you can open up your zipper to move that zipper head out of the way. Okay, Trim all your threads down. There we go. Now what I'm going to do is just trim off my zipper excess. Not too close, because your zipper is going to be opening in and out, and you don't want this to be so close that you pull the zipper tape off. So there we go. Now what I like to do is put my zipper head in the middle, so I don't accidentally, I know it's kind of far off from the side, but I don't take chances. So I put it in the middle so I don't have to ever worry about hitting my zipper. So now we're going to take our other zipper panel piece and put it right sides together. Now I'm turning this bag from the bottom, so I am going to sew around my whole zipper panel. So just clip that in place. Now, what you want to do is sew it with your lining facing up and just flip this back to sew across. So you know you're getting this side. And just start from either side, doesn't matter, and just sew all the way around. And I'm going to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm going to back stitch across my zipper a couple of times just to reinforce it. Move that lining piece out of the way. By doing it from this side, you're going to make sure that you're not catching your lining in your zipper panel and all of it lines up. Move that top, hold it down. We're going to sew across the top. Okay, now our zipper panel is done. Open it up, put your hand in there, make sure you didn't miss any corners. There we go. There's your internal zipper pocket. Just like that. Again, I like to leave it open. And this is it's a fairly medium-sized clutch. So the zipper pocket is a perfect size. It's not too big, not too small. 6 inches is what I like. So there we go. Now we will do the strap. So what you need to do on the strap is just like the connector, is mark your middle line, iron it, and then we're going to fold it again. So let's get our this out of the way. So we did a 4-inch, 4-inch wristlet. So your middle line is going to be 2 inches. And just draw 2 inches. Again, if you're using lighter fabric, I would not suggest a pen, maybe a pencil. 2 inches all the way across. And there we go. So now you're going to iron down this fold in the middle. just like this, where it looks like that. And then you're going to iron it down, folding it again in half, just like this. So, sides to the middle, and then folded completely in half. Okay, now that you have your wristlet strap ironed down, what we're going to do, there are many different ways to do this. It's just your preference and what your machine can handle. But the way I'm going to do this one is I'm going to take my clasps and put it on, just like this. Okay, now we're going to take our wristlet strap ends, right sides together, just like this. So you should have it unfolded until you see this seam in the middle on both ends, and put them right sides together and clip it just like that with this on. Now we're going to sew 1/4 of an inch across, just the width of your foot. Now you're going to fold that back under, fold everything back in, and what you might want to do is go to your iron and press this back down. Just to make that seam flat. So now you're going to top stitch in a circle on each side all the way around. Just 1/8 of an inch from the edge. Just keep moving it all the way around until you I know my machine sounds like a clunker. Now you want to trim these threads as close as possible because this is what people will be seeing. Okay, now you just flip it over and move to the other side. Do the other side just like that. Okay, so now I'm going to flip this where this is the back side. And I'm going to move my clasp up to this seam, just like that. So here's the seam that we did. I'm going to move my clasp up to here, and I'm going to stitch as close as possible across to close that up. Now my machine probably will not like all these layers, just because, oh. Now your domestic machine, unless you've been doing, like I have, a lot of bags, will handle it. Mine is just throwing a fit because for 3 years it's been doing bags. So now our wristlet is done. Now you can do wristlets like this for anything. If you're just making wristlets to make wristlets, you can do it like this, or you can do it another way. I might do a short video on how to make one, but there we go. So our wrist strap is done and complete. You can set that to the side. Now, next we need to work on our zipper tabs before we can put everything together. So before I put my zipper head on, I'm going to just do one. What I like to do is a little bit from the edge, put my zipper tab face down, piece of fabric, just like that. And I'm going to stitch across. Now what I'm going to do is fold this back and then I'm going to cut this down and roll it under and iron it down. Where it's even, just like that. And because it's super long, you can start from here, from this side, and go all the way across, which to me makes for a straighter line than having just the width of your zipper tape. So I'm going to go iron this down. Now be careful of your zipper tape since it is nylon. You don't want to just hold your iron on top of it, as it will melt. Here we go. Now we're just going to stitch, top stitch across the top. And I'm going to clip it since this is fabric and it likes to shift. Again, you can use double-sided tape or glue. And we're just going to stitch across the top. Starting from one side. You don't have to go all the way to the end. It just helps. See how that makes for a better straight line? Okay, so I'm not going to trim it. I might trim it down just a little bit, but not too much, because I do want some of that to be caught in my side seams just to hold it better. There we go. Because when you are sewing along your zipper tape, you're going to sew down the side anyway. So, and with this extra on the side, it just helps reinforce on those threads and seams. It just helps a little bit. So now we're going to put on our zipper head. Move my zipper all the way down, and this calls for a 10-inch zipper. But what I'm going to do is take one of my main panels. I'm going to put that there. Let's see, we have a 3/4 inch zipper tape. But you want it to not, you don't want your zipper tabs to be in your side seams. So our seam allowance is going to be 1/2 inch. So you need this to be at least 3/4. Do I want 1/2 inch? Yes. So we want it to be at least 3/4 from the side. Let's see. So your zipper is actually going to be smaller than 10 inches because we're doing the zipper tabs like this. So I'm just going to put this here so I can move it down. So what I did is I counted for my seam allowance, which is 1/2 inch, and then I moved it over another 1/4 so my zipper tab is not in my seam allowance and I can poke it up. So I'm going to clip that down just for right now so I can match it up to the other side. So for the other side, I need to account for my seam allowance, which is 1/2 inch, and then 1/4 inch. So my zipper needs to be cut just right there. So in the long run, your zipper, at least mine, is going to be 8.5 inches. It's a big difference than what they said, but this is just how I do it. Okay. Again, just like this, I'm going to stitch across the top. You can start anywhere, just as long as you start past the zipper tape. And my thread is holding up. There we go. Yep, it bird nested. So just trim all that down. We will rethread this, because when you have something like that happen, the first thing to do is just go ahead and rethread everything. Pull that back up. And try again. And again, fold it over, put some of it down. I know it seems like a waste. And iron it down. There are many tutorials on how to do zipper tabs, and everybody does them different. This is just the way, after years of hating zipper tabs, that I have found the easiest and most enjoyable way to do them. I had ended up hating zipper tabs so much I wanted to quit sewing. And I had tried everything. Glue, tape, nothing came out right. So again, we're just going to top stitch across the top. I'm going to clip this so it does not move. And trim it down just a tad on the sides. Clean up your mess. Okay. Now our zipper is ready. So we're going to take a main panel piece, put your zipper, pull to the left, right sides down. Now what you need to do is fold your main panel piece in half, and you're going to notch that half mark. Without cutting into your seam allowance. Okay, so just enough so you can see. Now I'm going to do the same thing to my zipper. Fold it in half, and on each side just a little bitty notch. You don't want to cut too much, because then just enough to where you can tell where that half point is. And then you're going to just match up these half notches. And put a clip. And then go down each side and match up the tops. And yes, my zipper tab sticks out, so I'm just going to do it like that. There we go. Now you can go ahead and baste this down, or you can take your other lining piece and put it right sides together on top. So you should have your main panel up, your zipper down, and then your lining face down. And then you're just going to match up the sides, match up all the edges. Now, if you get to clipping this and realize that your lining piece is a little bit bigger, don't worry. It could be that when you did your side panels, you messed up on the seam allowance, or it pulled in some. Doesn't matter. You can trim your lining piece down then to match your main panel. Now, if your lining piece is smaller than your main panel, I would cut another lining piece, depending on how much smaller. If it's just a tad, you could probably catch that in your seam allowance. If it is a lot, then you probably want to redo another lining piece, because once you get that, once you get that big of a difference, it's going to throw off the rest of the pattern. So on your domestic, switch out your foot for your zipper foot. There we go. And we are going to stitch this zipper in place. Do not forget to move your zipper head out of the way. What I like to do is when I'm basting this down, I only do it the width of the zipper, and then whenever I turn and top stitch, I do the whole thing. So I'm going to start at my zipper tab, feel where my zipper is so I don't accidentally go over it, and go down. Again, make sure you move your zipper head. Now this is a lot of layers. You have fleece, SF101 on, or 2 layers of SF101 and a zipper tape. So if you have to, go slow, hand crank. I put my machine through a lot of wear and tear. Okay, so now there's our zipper tabs. I'm not going to trim those down. I'm just going to flip this over. Check your zipper. Make sure all the way across that you caught the whole zipper. I mean, pull on it a little bit. Your zipper tabs. There we go. And then we're just going to, you can iron it down flat. I'm not going to. I'm just going to grab it and hold it and pull my zipper out of the way. Pull it straight, pretty much. So I'm going to start at the end, and I'm using the width of this part of my zipper foot as a guide to top stitch. Well, maybe not. That's a little bit too big for my liking. So what I'm going to do is move my zipper foot to the other side, just like that, and still be able to use this as a guide. And then that makes a 1/8 of an inch top stitch mark. So start with your needle down, and then just go slow because you have a lot of layers right here. See how my lining is just a tad smaller? So I'm just going to trim that down because the rest of it matches up around the bottom. So all I'm going to do is trim that down, because nobody is perfect. And there it matches up. Now, if you had to do that, what I'm going to do is rebaste my slip pocket, because it did trim my basting stitch off. That way I do not have to worry about it moving around. Just like that. Any mess ups that you do, you can fix. See, there we go. Now it all matches. And there's my top stitching. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing for the other side. Going to take your back panel piece or other panel piece, whichever one that you have left, fold it in half and do that center mark. Do not cut into your stitching. We are almost done. Which I did, but that's all right. And then your lining piece, well, no, you don't have to do your lining piece. Your zipper should have that other halfway mark right there. Right there. And you're just going to match up these two marks. The reason you don't have to do your lining is because your lining is going to match up to your panel. All right, clip it down. Again, your zipper tab's going to be bigger, but that's okay. If you don't like to do it that way, please do it to your preference. Again, you can baste this zipper down, but I'm just going to go ahead and lay my lining right down on top of it. So again, you should have your back panel right sides together with your front panel, and then your two lining pieces right sides together. Just like this. So all of your pieces should now be together. The only piece you should have not with this is your wristlet. So using your zipper foot, we're going to start at one tab and sew all the way down to the other tab. Now don't forget to, if you moved your zipper foot, to move it back to the other side, so it will be the correct width for your zipper tape, because these number 5 zippers fit perfect for this. This is the perfect width to ride along down your number 5 zipper, and it gets right there by your zipper tape or zipper. Again, go slow if you need to. As you can tell, I'm riding this edge of my zipper foot along the edge, and it's getting right by the zipper. Move your zipper head out of the way. And keep going. I know the pattern calls for foam, but this is why I did not use foam. Okay, so there we go. Now you just flip those two pieces back. So it should look like this. And we're going to top stitch this side. So I'm going to move my zipper foot back to the other side so it matches what I did for the first panel. And I'm going to, you can iron this down or do like me and just hold it like this and your zipper so it all lays flat. Again, go slow if you need to. way, zipper head, keep going. Again, if your lining did not line up, it's okay. Just trim it down, because it looks like the only part that did not line up for me is right here along that side, because everything else is matching. It could just be that my fabric pulled when I was doing my panels, and that's fine. My thinking is, okay, you want to be as close to perfect as possible. And if you can fix it, using a friend of mine from the group's quote. And if you can fix it, fix it. But if it doesn't come out perfect, go to Walmart and take a look at their bags. Let me tell you, even your best is better than what they are selling. So now we have, it's starting to look like a pouch. So now what you want to do is open up your zipper to the middle, and we are going to do right sides together for your main and lining, and clip all the way around. And because our zipper tab is not in our seam allowance, you don't have this big huge bulk, so you have this room right here. And I'm using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I think that deviates from the pattern, but I like 1/2 inch seam allowances. They work for me. Make sure your connector is tucked on the inside. And you were just, and that broke. Just going to flip all the way around, matching up your corners. Okay, so that's one side, and then I'm just going to lay my lining flat and clip that down. Now, for your turning hole, I'm going to clip one right there and one right there, and then I have my turning hole, which my whole hand will fit in. There we go. It's all clipped. Now you're going to start, we're going to start at one clip. Notice how my clips are different except for these two. I've stated in one of my other videos, until you are very comfortable sewing, use different clips for your birthing hole. This will tell you, all right, I need to stop here and start here, or start here and stop here, whatever. So I used my hair clips for the sides of my lining, and then use these two as my starting and stopping point. So I'm going to start at this clip and 1/2 inch go all the way around to this clip, back stitching a couple of times to reinforce that hole as you're turning, and then you have your birthing hole. So I'm going to put my magnet right at the 1/2 inch mark, replace my zipper foot with my Teflon foot, and that's just because I don't feel like putting on my walking foot. Now, if you notice your machine is kind of struggling with all of these layers, put on your walking foot and it will make a huge difference. So again, we're going to start at this clip and just go all the way around. Move things out of your way, because I have a bad habit of having everything right here in my way. Now I like to just do a little back stitch across where my top pieces are, just to reinforce that again. Make sure your connector is not in the way, your D-ring. I'm going to back stitch across that a couple of times just to reinforce. Move my magnet back. Another little back stitch and keep on going. And I'm hitting the clip I'm using as my stopping point. So I'm going to move that and back stitch a couple of times to reinforce that. Now, what I'm going to do is trim down my side seams. Again, I'm not going to trim down my connector. I'm just going to go around it. And I'm not going to trim where my birthing hole is. I'm going to stop right there and skip over to the rest of it. Now, if you think a ½ inch is too much waste, please change your seam allowance. Here's the trick about seam allowances. The pattern calls for a certain seam allowance, sure. But as long as you are using the same seam allowance for everything, it doesn't matter, honestly. If you want to use a quarter, use a quarter. But if you use a quarter, you have to use a quarter for everything. Now, that has worked for me so far. If I want to change the seam allowance, go bigger, go smaller. But just read through the pattern, because if it's explicit to a certain seam allowance, they say it in there, like this has to be this seam allowance for the rest of it to match up. Like I've noticed, if a pattern has 2 or 3 different seam allowances in the pattern, then that's what I would stick to. But because I've seen 1 or 2 patterns like that. But if a pattern is the same seam allowance throughout, then it's fine. So now we're going to stick our hand in this birthing hole, open up our zipper all the way, and just pull it out. Again, do not be afraid to be rough with it. And just push it all the way through. Stick your hand back in. And we're going to just keep pushing. Pull that connector. Push out your corners. You're going to flip out that zipper and push out that corner. Now before we close it, close that birthing hole, just stick your hand in there, get everything settled, because you want to make sure that your lining sits in there. So we have our zipper pocket. You're going to open that up and just lay that flat. And just push everything down. Because if you notice that your lining is a little bit baggy, then take it out and sew across the bottom a little bit more. But you only want to do it a little bit at a time, because you don't want to do it too much and then your lining doesn't sit on the bottom of your bag. Roll out those seams. Now, because I did this all in cotton, I could also iron it flat. This is a great time to check all of your seams, because you don't want to close that birthing hole, then find out that you need to open it back up and close something. So see how, because I did my zipper tabs this way, I have this little hole right here, right? So my zipper tabs stand up just like that, and it looks, to me, in my opinion, a little bit more professional. All right, so now we're going to take out our lining, if you're satisfied with it. Roll out those corners. By rolling out the corners like this, it helps with this birthing hole to line up just a little bit better. And we're going to clip it down. Now this is where you can stick any tags or anything you would like. I'm going to go cut a handmade tag to slip in here. If I can find them. Which I cannot, so I will just have to add it later. I can add a handmade charm onto my zipper. Okay, so now we're going to close this birthing hole, and I'm just going to sew it at about 1/8 of an inch from the side, from the edge, my bad. So start right there. Again, if you must go slow, because you have a lot of layers right here. You have your slip pocket and all of your lining pieces. You want to cut these threads as close as possible. Tuck it back inside. Use your hand to really get down in there and poke everything out so it all lays flat. So there we go. There's the inside, which we can't see, so let me turn on this lamp. Nope, this lamp's not on. So there's the inside. Here, I can put this lamp in. Okay. So there you go. Now you can see it. So here's your slip pockets. Here's your zipper pocket. And just roll out those seams, which I will probably iron all of this down just to make it flat. Whoops. Add your wristlet. And there we go. There you have it. Beautiful wristlet pouch. With a zipper and inside pockets. These are great to throw in your large bag, and then if you're just running into the store or something, just throw everything in here. What I do is I have a small wallet that I put all my cards in, and then if I don't feel like carrying in my purse, I will throw something in one of my wristlets, just my small wallet, and my list, like when I'm going grocery shopping, and then I'm good to go. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I know there was a lot of pausing and back and forth. I had some technical difficulties. If constructive criticism is greatly appreciated, because nobody can learn if nobody tells you in a respectful way what you need to improve on. If you would like to see more videos, please hit the subscribe button. And once I hit 1,000 members, then we can do a YouTube live. So for our next video, we will, since we did a zipper pouch, this wristlet, I will probably do a strap video with, like, for a lanyard. That's what we'll do, because the same principles that you make a lanyard, you can make for straps, wristlets, pretty much anything, and we'll probably do it out of cotton. After that, we will probably start moving into vinyl just as accent pieces. I'll have to come up with a plan for a bag. So we'll probably do a simple tote bag with vinyl accent pieces. So get those walking foots ready. Hope you enjoyed the video.